I want to welcome everybody to the Daily Cheat Sheet. There's my radio voice, and joined by the dude in Golan. And want to remind everybody to follow this show. Following means a lot to us. So what that in a sense means is when every new podcast comes up, you will be the first to get it with no cost. What better deal is that in town? First to get. You don't have to pay. Can anybody argue with that sort of deal?
I don't see how.
And then, even better, you give us 5 stars and you'll feel better about yourself. So you've just done 2 good things for your... That's free too.
That's free too. And think of it this way. The 5 stars is kind of like a high five that just lasts forever. Doesn't that sound nice?
Unless you turn off the automatic follow.
Yeah, well, and that's on you. So just don't do that, and we're all good to go.
Well, it's obviously a monumentally great day, but I just have to start the show. This actually happened this weekend on Truth Social. I love the people at Truth Social. I don't want to say their names that work there because Saturday night I was having an issue with my Riyadh post. And by the way, that name, it takes me 10 minutes to practice how to say it correctly. But so I was trying to post about Riyadh and all the performers, and it would not let me post. And I was posting earlier in the day about my issues with the Doha and all that stuff. And I thought, am I being censored? Am I being banned? And I was talking with David, like, did something happen? Did my account get blocked? Well, as it turns out, I brought up the name Whitney Cummings and as one of the comedians performing. And the AI on Truth Social
didn't like her last name.
Did not like her last name.
That is hilarious.
So they blocked the post because of Whitney Cummings.
You know, I used to have her saved in my phone as Whitney Loud and Often.
Why not the woman that would run down Sunset for miles
That's
at a
her,
time?
Sweaty Whitney, running her brains out. And she told me that if she wasn't running, she would lose her mind.
Well, apparently she fully stopped running. But I just thought that was an interesting thing that's what their AI picked on. I was like, did I get blocked? Did I say something about Saudi Arabia I shouldn't have? So there you are. Listen, this has been, as we're coming up on Simchat Torah tonight, or tomorrow night in America, tonight in Israel, this could not have been a more incredible day, obviously. I know you were at a watch party with IDF soldiers this morning, with Israelis and Americans there, and it was till the hostages got released, you could not breathe a sigh. And I want people to understand what so many of us are feeling right now. We're finally able to breathe after 2 years and a few days. Thank you, President Trump, for allowing us to breathe again.
Yeah, it's one is, we did have a watch party with a hostage release party with a whole bunch of Israeli soldiers and American soldiers at my neighbor's house. A lot of fun. Great crew. Everybody, I mean, everyone that I know has been on edge, obviously up until now because of the hostages and the suffering that they were going through and the families and Hostage Square. I mean, everybody knows these people. We feel like we know them. But more than that, leading up to this, the anxiety was so high because everybody was like, what tricks is Hamas going to pull at the last minute? Are they going to kill these guys? Are they going to do something? They're giving up their one chip, the only thing they really had to play on. So we were waiting for some shenanigans, and thank God, these guys got released. And last night while we were waiting for these guys to be released, we talked to some of the soldiers. They got up and told their story. Kid was 22 years old, got shot through the face, in a coma for 7 days. He had to have his chin reattached. The bullet went through here and came out here. So his entire jaw was pretty much blown apart. And he was just talking about it was all worth it. We would do this to rescue those guys, and the fact that they're getting out makes it all worth it. That's why we were there. Another kid we talked to, also 22 years old, got shot in the hip. He's having a hard time standing. Young guy, energetic, full of life. We're going to have him on the show. So, you saw the anxiety, but you also saw the absolute release of just raw emotion when these guys were finally let out.
Yeah, beautiful. And it's interesting that you say guys because as, what's her name on Fox News, the former press secretary from the Five, she said, Golan, there were no women that were released. Part of my fear with this deal, and not to go down crazy street, but with Hamas, I think you have to go down crazy street, Golan, with the fact that they only released four of the dead bodies, is part of me thinks to myself, did they release everybody? Did they release all the living hostages? Because this is Hamas we're dealing with. These are people that literally took babies and killed them, burned them, killed them. slaughtered them.
The Bebas babies murdered with their bare hands.
And not to
Bare
mention
hands.
on the kibbutz.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the photos obviously that we've all seen. Well, not all, not enough people actually. Photos and videos that certainly not enough people have seen that show the bloody nurseries, the bloody stuffed animals, the bloody children's books. These are things that are hard to forget once you've seen them. Judah, I know you've watched the video, as have I, and there's things in that. Speaking of children that are some of the most unspeakably evil things I've ever seen that I'll never forget. And in this case, you're absolutely right. They basically have said stuff that we have to take at face value from a group that has never said anything true and has been running with propaganda for years now. So the idea that the people who are left behind, these happen to be the ones that are still alive, we don't know. And they were supposed to release the bodies of those that had been killed in captivity. They already broke the ceasefire agreement by not doing that, by only releasing 4 of the bodies, which means there's, I don't know, 24 additional bodies that we're supposed to get back that we're not going to get back, or that we're only going to get some of them back, or we're going to get them back when they feel like giving them back. And we just have to take their word for them that these bodies are just hard to find, and not we're hanging on to your daughters. And we'll never know. And we'll never know.
A big reason, just sorry to interrupt, also is because this is going to take months, and with DNA and having to do the testing on DNA, we really don't know. And what scares the crap out of me is, listen, I'm celebrating today. I am extremely happy that the 20 hostages were released, and it's important to remember that Trump, even before he got into office, a lot of them were released then too. But the thought of Hamas still standing and still being armed and still controlling a huge part of that territory, Golan, is a frightening thought.
Well, this is something my wife kind of shook me today after I posted some stuff, saying, "All right, we're very happy this happened, but now it's time for the real fight, which is about to begin." She said, "Take a full day, take a couple of days, and enjoy, celebrate these people coming home, enjoy it. Don't already be ready for the next one, but you got to be ready for the next one." Remembering these are people that when they had torn apart these 2 babies and their mother, and then returned the remains of the broken tiny bodies, they didn't return Shuri Bibas's body. They returned some other random lady's body, and then DNA had to find that out, and then they had to later go,
Thank you for bringing
"Oopsies."
that up. Very
Yeah.
important. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean, it speaks directly to what we're talking about here. These are liars, these are terrorists, these are propagandists, these are people who are going to do everything possible to psychologically mess with everybody. And the fact that we now have to just say, we believe you that the 24 bodies that haven't been returned are all actually dead and not just being held on to because you feel like it. And they've already said some of those bodies are never going to be found. So of the 24 that are now left over, who knows how many we're actually going to get? And of those, who knows how many of those are alive and being held in captivity and being raped over and over again? And we'll just never know. So trying to remain positive. There are so many things that keep pulling me back to caution and pulling me back to worry. But I'm trying to spend at least 24 hours enjoying this entirely good day before I dive back into the battle.
100%. And man, I just wanted to say it's important to remind people, like, listen, we're happy and we're celebrating. We are so grateful for Trump and Netanyahu and Jared Kushner and everybody and Marco Rubio, for everybody for doing this. But it's also important to remember that when we did leave Vietnam, a huge cause for a long time were our POWs that Vietnam always said they did not have. And so, yeah.
The main thing is that the living hostages got out. I mean, that is most likely what transpired yesterday, is that we got all the living hostages out. It's highly unlikely that there are any living hostages still being held by the Gaza Ministry of Health, but it is a day for celebration, and we do need those bodies back in order to verify that that's all, that everyone is accounted for. But the most important thing was getting back the living hostages, and I can't believe that actually went down without a hitch. It's unbelievable.
I'm shocked
what was
too,
just
by the way.
accomplished. It's unbelievable what was just
But it shows you, man, the power of Trump. It shows you the power of Trumplomacy. And I really do think that has to be made a name because it's Trumplomacy. I don't think anybody has ever witnessed what this one person is able to achieve when he sets his mind to it. It's like he has the building built and then he says, we'll figure out a way to fill up the rooms. And that's how he does business. That's how he's done his life. And we all migrate that.
There's a meme going around where it shows Obama going, "Can we negotiate?" And the terrorists going, "We're going to bomb you." And then Biden going, "Can we negotiate?" And the terrorists going, "We're going to bomb you." And Trump goes, "We're going to bomb you." And the terrorist goes, "We'll negotiate." And I think that summed it up so well.
That's
Like,
very
Batya,
good. That's very
Yeah.
good.
Well, no, I mean, did you? I mean, I don't know if either of you saw the Knesset speech this morning with Trump at the Knesset, but
yeah,
I mean, I know it's not proper, Golan, to speak about ill of other presidents while abroad, but he sort of took his shots at Obama and Biden, and he took shots where it lays, where the blame is, and that was the fact that I think it was Mender, both of you, that brought up last week. Their focus has always been on Iran. It's never been on everybody else. And really, that's what Trump realized. I mean, it's just absolute brilliance. And yeah,
But it's the same thing that he did with the Abraham Accords, frankly. He basically said, you continue, you know, that old saying, right? The definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And he said,
it's
well,
actually Einstein, by the way.
yeah, I don't know if it's Einstein, and I don't know if the internet told me it's Einstein or if it actually is Einstein, but either
right.
way, it's basically what he said is you guys have been everybody. I'm talking not just Obama and Biden. I'm talking about since the beginning of my lifetime, certainly, it's been how do we solve this Palestinian issue? And then once we solve the Palestinian issue, then we can start to work on peace with the other Arab and Muslim countries. And he said, how about we just say, who gives a shit about the Palestinians and start to make peace with all these other places because they want to make money and they want to live in a place where they're not going to go to war every 2 seconds. And a bunch of them said, yeah, that sounds good. We actually don't care about the Palestinians. And what we discovered was nobody cared about the Palestinians. Now, they knew that that was the case. And so when Saudi Arabia looked like they were going to sign on to the Abraham Accords, they launched October 7th, at least partially to disturb that process. And everything since then has kind of tumbled into the abyss. But the initial idea of the Abraham Accords was exactly that same thinking. I'm going to do something different than what you've done over and over again because what you've done isn't working. And I'm going to try something that no one's ever done before, and it worked.
And as you were with your friends this morning, this is something, and I said this to somebody, America only lost today. America first won. And when you're with your friends, there is a symbiotic relationship that our country has with Israel. I mean, it's just one of those things. And there's something symbiotic that Trump has with Israel and with the world for that matter. But this was the first time I had ever heard him bring up Jared, and he said there was no better friend to Israel. Nobody loved Israel more than Jared Kushner. And he's like, he even got my daughter to convert. And I just thought, as Golan brings up, when Trump speaks and he goes off the script, I don't think there's anybody funnier in the world when he looked at Chaim Herzog and he said, you should pardon him. Okay.
Yeah,
Even though
great.
Chaim Herzog can't
It was
pardon anybody
amazing.
because the president of Israel has no power. And he said, you know, cigars and champagne are great, but like the pardon, it was fantastic.
You know, Batya Unger Sargon, she's excellent. She's got so many takes that are spot on point. So she goes, his diplomatic efforts in securing the recent Gaza ceasefire and the hostage release deal is something that is uniquely Trump. No one else could have gotten it done. He reframed the Hamas dispute with Israel as a diplomatic problem, and he made it a diplomatic problem for the moderate Arab states, not just Israel. It's not just an Israel military problem. He tied it to everything that we're doing with Qatar and Saudi Arabia and all those other countries. So now it became their problem. Then they looked at Hamas as a liability, and then Turkey, Egypt, they all want something from Trump. So he made this their problem. And then they applied the pressure to Hamas to release the hostages, which is something no other president did. Everyone else, from U.S. leaders to world leaders in Europe, they all put the pressure on Israel, which is the wrong place to do it. And it was getting nowhere. It's just like the folly of placing all the pressure on Russia in the beginning to end the Ukraine war. when there were other ways to do it, which Trump is doing. But back to this, he made this their problem. Turkey wants to get back in good graces with America for the F-35 program. You better put pressure on Hamas. Hey, Qatar, you want some more integrated protections from us? You better lean on Hamas. Egypt, you want to get in on the rebuilding of Gaza? Sure, we'll do a little ceremony in your country, which elevates Egypt in a huge way. This gathering at Sharm el-Sheikh is a huge elevation to Egypt and Sisi. And the way to do it is,
by the way, just so you know, not to Starmer or not to Macron. I don't know if you saw what happened with Starmer at this thing, but Trump invited him up, and he brought Starmer up, and he said, okay, you could go back. And Starmer thought he was coming up to speak, and then Trump essentially pushed him backwards. And then there's an image of him and Macron where he's literally manhandling Macron. He has
the best part was what he did with Canadian Prime Minister. Did you see that?
No.
Hot Mike caught it. So Carney comes up and Trump goes, President Carney. And Carney goes, you've elevated me to president. And Trump goes, oh, I did? I said that? At least I didn't call you governor. So good. The guy is just a stand-up comedian. He's a G.
I'm telling you, I keep saying it. He's a
well,
stand-up
you're the one
comedian.
why I brought that up so much. But go. I want to say something. I didn't want to go negative, and I didn't mean to sound negative in the beginning with my worst fears. But when you promise to, the world needs to see this, and the world needs to hear this. They're not living up to their end of that part of the ceasefire. And the part of the giving back, the 2,000 murderers or so that Israel released, was getting back 28 bodies. Only 4 have been released today. So that's why I went there with that. But what we are witnessing today is nothing short of miraculous. It could only have been done by President Trump, and it could only have been done by Jared Kushner. And I want to read you something going very quickly about a person like Steve Bannon. In 2017, the animosity between the two was at its peak. Bannon privately called Kushner a globalist and a CUCK, and reportedly yelled at him, "I will break you in half," if he interfered with his work. So I want to put that into context about the divide that's there between these movements, Golan, and the spiritual sickness of somebody like Steve Bannon and a lot of these other people. You look at a guy like Jared Kushner and you say to yourself, look at what this guy has done. For no fanfare. He doesn't like being in the limelight. You could tell how uncomfortable he is getting any sort of applause. And he's just doing it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to compare those two. One, full of bluster. Everything is about him all the time. Everything is about him being in the spotlight. And that's obviously Steve Bannon. Everything he does, even when he says, I'm doing it for you, I'm doing it for Trump, but it's all for him. He's just a selfish, blowhard, woke right, America alone guy. And when you compare that to what Kushner does, is Kushner comes in quietly. And after months, in some cases years of negotiations, he comes in, and as Trump put it in one interview, they didn't even have to spend the night. Kushner came in, he came in with ideas. Let's separate the parts of this ceasefire into part 1, part 2, part 3, and we'll agree on that. We'll sign off on those. Then we'll deal with the next one. That was the moment that everything kind of fell into place. This is a guy who, also was one of the masterminds behind the Abraham Accords, similar kind of thing, where he said, I think I have an idea of how to do this differently. And ultimately, Kushner's the guy who gets it done. Came in, and immediately they had a contract signed between Hamas and Israel, and just quietly pushing policy forward in the way that should be done. Not flashy, not calling attention to himself, just delivering results.
Well said. And man, it was cool to watch his brother, who's I think a Democrat, applauding him online. And you take somebody like Jared Kushner, who didn't ask for this. Remember, him and Ivanka did not want to be part of this administration. For two people that didn't want to be part of this administration, my God, have they done one heck of a job. And though we're oftentimes so critical of the insiders and the people that have been there for ages, and not just us, but that's always the trope, and that's always the thing. But these two outsiders got something done. Got something miraculously done. And I put Ivanka in there because they're husband and wife. And like you like to refer, or both of you, when your wives are pregnant, we're pregnant. So I give them both credit for this because, stand by your man and all that stuff. And she is one strong woman, Ivanka Trump. So God bless them both.
I don't see how Jared's brother can't applaud it. What Jared just accomplished, or helped accomplish is huge. If you look at Jared talking about the Abraham Accords that he put together under the first Trump term and the ways he was going about solving this Israel-Palestine issue, he was thinking completely outside the box. He came up with some novel ideas on how to do this thing. And Gaza was the, match. The West Bank is a little more challenging, but they had ideas on how to do that. To see him come out and help out with this thing, I'm really glad that he did it. He could have stayed away. Him and Ivanka and their team have such a good take. One is they have a great relationship with a lot of the Middle Eastern players, from Qatar to Turkey to Saudi Arabia. They've got deep connections, but reframing it, and this is basically what Trump did as well, is he reframed it as a diplomatic problem. He reframed it as there was an economic component to get us to the finish line. And that's what they did. They didn't look at this as old tribal feud over blood and, how many of your people got killed versus how many of their people. Didn't matter. Let's figure out how to move this forward. Everybody wants prosperity, especially the Arab Gulf countries, because they realize that oil is going away and the new oil is going to be technology, and they all want in on that. And
President Trump said AI.
And
great.
America and Israel are at the forefront of that.
I really want people really need to listen to his Knesset speech because it's vintage Trump. It's like, and I know you wanted to, I'm sorry, I know you wanted to add on to what Matt just said, but it's just so vintage when you watch him speak, and then you could see the weave start to happen, and you don't know where the weave is going to go, but eventually it'll land. And I just love that he brings up exactly that point, and then he goes, NAI, go on, out of nowhere, and artificial intelligence.
It's great. No, but again, it's his timing. Also, you understand, he has a script. It's written. He has script writers. It's on the teleprompter. He's ready to go. But when he starts getting a reaction, I just, again, I used to work with stand-up comedians, and they would say, like, I had my bits. I'm ready to go. I know exactly what I'm going to say. But when they start responding to one bit, and you can tell there's more to milk here, I just go off script and I have a good time. Trump does it every single time. You can always tell, too. He has his tells, little words that he'll throw in. The most magnificent, like, he has very specific things where he's like, I'm expanding upon what's on the page easily. So yeah, his speech was really special. Those asides, that one aside you mentioned to the president, that you just give him a pardon. Just awesome stuff. But, well, I just wanted to say this about Kushner. The reason why it's one of the things that was said by the Arab states that were involved with this is that it was actually because he had been so successful with the Abraham Accords, he already had established legitimacy with the Arab states. They knew about him, whether it was because of the deal that he had made with them or because they had heard about the deals that he'd made with others. They said, this is a guy who understands what our needs are as well. So he came into the room coasting on the legitimacy he had already built up in the previous administration with the Abraham Accords. So the minute he walked in, Witkoff, who had been trying and scraping away at everything and just doing the best he could, but not really landing the punches he wanted to land, it was like Kushner walked in, they were like, it's like the moment in Pulp Fiction when they're like, what are we going to do? I shot Marvin in the face. Like, the wolf is coming. Oh, the wolf is coming. Oh, that's all you had to say. That was Kushner walking into the room.
It's important because I heard him say today, it's really funny. I love when you interject, like this is not an abstract, that's a fantastic movie, but Kushner was sharing, I can't remember who said it to him, but one of the leaders said, you listen, and there's something to that. And I think a lot of them respect the fact, as opposed to in America where they look at him like let's just say they don't respect his belief system, but he is an observant Jew. And my father, who was the first person to wear a yarmulke at Time Life magazine, was able to do a lot of business with a lot of foreign countries because they loved that he was an observant Jew. They respected that. And they respected that he would have his kosher meals brought in. And I don't know if you remember Wang Computer, but Mr. Wang really wanted my dad to work for him for that specific reason. So because they're religious people, these people, they are. I mean, they believe in a different religion than us, but obviously it's putting it mildly. But there's something they look, I think, at Jared and they have a respect for him for the fact that he lives his life in a certain way.
I think that's absolutely true. Look, there's a discipline that comes with that. It's something that it's not necessarily easy to be observant in any religion because there are so many rules. But when you are not holier than thou about it, when you are actually consistent about it, when you are not doing it performatively, it really is about presence. It's about authenticity. And it's about really adhering to all the things that, all the tenets of whatever your religion is. So I looked at this many years ago. I knew a lot of Christian conservatives, people who were really observant Christians or Catholics, and I found that they had better work ethic than the other people that I was dealing with. I found that they were more honest than the other people that I was dealing with. I found that they had stronger conviction than the other people I was dealing with, and less hypocrisy, stronger leadership. It was like a whole list of things, and I kept thinking to myself, it's so interesting because they were a different faith than I was, but I could see it didn't matter what the faith was. It was about them living their life with that kind of truth and that kind of honor. It really made a
Code.
difference. And it's
A
a
code.
code, exactly. And it's the same thing here. You can sense it.
Yeah,
And that
no,
it applies to almost all religions besides for let's say Islam.
or
The more
Scientology.
the more religious you get. And Scientology is not really calling for beheading people, but in Islam, the more religious you get, the more you could go down that crazy vein where it's you got to kill all the infidels. But we had a lunch meetup with some Iranian friends, and they were telling us some things that I found almost unbelievable. But they were saying that all the youth in Iran want nothing to do with Islam and the Shia version of Islam in particular. She was saying that if the government of Iran fell tomorrow, the country would revert to Zoroastrian religion. She's like, that's what the youth is interested in. They want nothing to do with the restrictions of the Sharia law, whatever version of Islam law they
And the
practice
mullahs,
in
yeah.
Iran, but it's terrible. So it was interesting. It was interesting to hear that take.
Well, you bring up a great point because it's the point
You're
I
muted.
brought up, Golan, during the 12-day war, which was it went a little too quickly. And I think if it had gone on for another week or so, you really could have seen a revolution. And it almost happened too fast to not allow the revolution to happen, as you're witnessing now in Gaza, right? With the Hamas people shooting down people that fought back on the street. And I encourage people to, you don't have to look at the videos, but they're just brutally murdering people on the streets right now in Gaza. Hamas people are, and nobody's talking about this. I think they killed a family of 25, kidnapped another 35 part of their family, shooting people on the street, anybody. And when you look at what Iran did after the 12-day war, they were just, I mean, I don't know how many people they must have executed, but it was a lot. And we're really going to have to figure out something because you're going to be watching now, Golan, you're going to be watching people trying to mature and scary, frightening children acting out with mass weaponry.
Well, look, I think what you said about Iran is very wise. I think that 12 days was way too fast, and it did end before it should have. Although, fine, we can count that as one of the wars that Trump ended. Although I would argue that we didn't go far enough. That's fine. We don't have to relitigate that. But I think that here we have an interesting thing happening because um, Hamas knows that the minute they allow any slippage of power, they are putting themselves in a very dangerous ground. And so they are doing everything they can to maintain all the control possible. That means all the repression they possibly can, rounding up every informant or everyone they think is an informant, even if they don't think they're informants, they're rounding them up and calling them informants to deter other people from becoming informants. It's all suppression of dissent. It's all, of course, imprisonment and torture and execution and all the rest. And they're doing it judiciously. Now, I'm curious to see what happens next, since part of this deal is they are supposed to disarm, and so far they have not done that. They have not disarmed small arms, certainly, and they likely won't. And we'll see what happens as a result of that in terms of them not adhering to the ceasefire. In addition to that, right now, another strange thing, and we're still trying to figure out exactly what it means and how it's going to manifest, but when Trump was asked on Air Force One what's going on with all the Hamasniks that are starting to round up all the dissidents and shoot them in the head? Trump said, and it may have been an off the cuff remark, and maybe he needs to correct the record here, but he had said, yep, we gave them permission to go ahead and basically become the police force within Gaza for a period of time. He didn't specify what that period of time was. And he said, I think it'll be fine. To me, that doesn't seem fine. That seems like we are legitimizing them and giving them a new power structure within Gaza, and not forcing them to rearm and allowing them to wipe out all of their rivals. So this is an issue. I guess again we got to take our win and then we'll deal with the rest. So
I'm going to
I'm
read
curious
can
to
I
see what
restate?
happens.
Can I?
Trump's actual statement on it is hilarious. I mean, it's not hilarious.
I
There's
mean,
people
it's
dying.
not hilarious actually.
Yeah, but what he said, did you guys see it? Or is
Yeah,
that what you were
I
going to read,
watched it. That's
Judah?
what I'm talking about.
Judah, is that what you're going to read?
No. I was just going to say what I had a different take of what Golan was what his interpretation, and because part of the deal was that they were allowed to go and clear out the 47%. I don't think when anybody said clearing out, that meant, assassinating people on the street. This was specifically designed to allow the hostages to get out from whatever neck of the woods they were in, which we still don't know where they were. So that's what I took out of that Golan.
Well, here's what Trump actually said on Air Force One. He goes, they do want to stop the problem, and they've been open about it. And we gave them approval for a period of time. You have close to 2 million people going back to buildings that have been demolished. There's a lot of bad things that can happen. So we want it to be safe. I think it's going to be fine. Who knows? So now you got them executing people in the streets.
Hilarious in how haphazard it is, but he said, I'm giving temporary approval to Hamas to basically carry out policing functions in Gaza. That's not okay. And
right.
I think it was one of those things where he was not prepared for the question, and so he just said what was on the top of his head, and later he's going to have to fix it, or he'll double down as he sometimes does. But this is
what he's doing. I think what he's doing is he's going, first things first. We need the hostages out.
Exactly.
And we're not going to focus on disarming Hamas right now because that's in the next phase. And when it comes to disarming Hamas, he's not going to have Americans do it. I don't even think he's going to have the Israelis do it. He's going to have the Palestinian Authority together with Qatar and Egypt and Turkey. Those are going to be the big players, those three. And he's going to make them do it. But, there's reports that came out of Gaza that said 52 members of the powerful Dagmush clan.
That's what I was referring to.
Yeah, the Dagmush, 52 of them were killed in violent clashes. Hamas internal security forces, of them, 12 of them were killed. Basically, what they did was they took ambulances, filled it up with Hamas fighters, drove into the Dagmush neighborhood. The people watching that neighborhood didn't realize what was happening. They thought it was just ambulances coming in. They rounded up all the youth, so young males, put them up against the wall. There's videos of this, and they just shot them all.
Yep.
Now, Mr.
I was going to say it
Fafo-
wasn't so much a violent skirmish as it was just a massacre.
It was a massacre. They massacred them. A mother actually said that. She goes, it's a massacre. They're dragging people away. Children are screaming and dying. They're burning the houses. They're like, what did we do wrong? They don't even understand what's going on there. Their people are just being slaughtered. The Mr. Fafo, who gained notoriety because, first he was praising the October 7th attack as it happened. Then he was crying on camera when the Israelis responded. Then he became a journalist and he was running around with press credentials. Then he was an ambulance driver. And then he was also a victim who died like 7 times, but he always comes back to life. Anyway, this time he finally did get killed. He was there covering the skirmish, and I think he got hit by a stray bullet, and it hit him in the head. He's done.
So there is comedy coming out of Gaza.
For sure, for sure. Mr. Fafo actually found out. I mean, how do you get past that? It's great.
And then the ironic thing is that his brother got released today as one of the in the prisoner exchange. So
now, before you move on to that, yes, it's great. His brother got out. As Golan said, it's too bad that the two weren't together celebrating when they got whacked, and only one of them got whacked. But SJP, which is the Students' Justice in Palestine, NSJP, the Nationalists, they came out with a statement.
Just real quick, so SJP, to remind you all, it's an arm of Hamas. It's absolutely financed through the Muslim Brotherhood. It is a terrorist organization. Go ahead, Mend.
Yeah, so they're saying as Hamas has been executing dissidents in the Gaza Strip, American anti-Israel group National Students Justice in Palestine called for revenge against a collaborator. So they're not saying, oh, all Palestinian lives are matter, everything is important, save the lives, happy about the ceasefire. No. They're calling for more killing of Gazans, especially after the influencer Salah al-Jafwari, also known as Mr. Fafo, was killed. So they're calling for more killings. It's just, you can't make this stuff up. This is so good.
No, you
But it
can't.
does tell you what they actually care about. It was never the
Of course. I mean,
Palestinians. It
But
was
that's
never.
always been the case for
Yeah.
everything. But Golan, I think it's really important right now because obviously this summit today and Bibi ended up, this is really interesting because Bibi got invited and it was bothering me yesterday. So I was not in a great mood yesterday when people were talking to me because I was not happy that Bibi wasn't invited to this summit and Abbas was. Anyways, it turns out that Bibi did end up getting invited, but Turkey wouldn't land there if Bibi was there. So I don't know if you saw that story. But he shut up about it and he said, I'm not going to go because I'm observing
Yeah.
the holidays.
Yeah, so Turkey basically said if he is there, we will turn our plane around. So right away we can see the seriousness of this peace accord that they're doing, and then of course after that, time and time again, if you were paying attention to what was going on at this supposed peace meeting, whatever they called it in the end, they started to threaten Israel, and Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Iran banded together and said we will take historic action against Israel if they try to annex Judea and Samaria, and a lot of threats and a lot of strong arm and strong man bullshit. So they're doing great. They're just really, really nailing it to the wall with this peace nonsense. So I don't even know what to say about it. It is a joke upon a joke upon a joke, and at least we got the hostages back. And again, I'm trying not to worry about what's happening today. I'm trying to take 24 hours to smile.
Men's point is the best, and this is something we've brought up. The hostages that we know of are home. From how we deal with it from now on is a different issue. But when you watched President Trump today at the Knesset, he was pretty firm. I don't think he was just talking to Israel. I think he was talking to people in America, in his own party. He was talking to the rest of the world, saying, I always have their back. And to people out there, I'm sorry that might bother you. That doesn't mean President Trump isn't America first. He's always been America first. Okay. And he really, one of the things that he is going to get in trouble for, and I just want to give people a heads up so they understand this, was when he was talking about Miriam Adelson and her husband, the late, great Shelley Adelson. And he said to her, when he asked her about, is she America first or Israel first? And she couldn't answer. She's Israeli. Okay, so for all the people that are ready to start the trope wars, because I already saw that go on online,
Of
people
course.
attacking that comment, like Dave Smith attacking that comment of his. She's an Israeli. She's allowed to, and again, who's given billions of dollars. I mean, who's given hundreds of thousands of jobs to Americans.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of Americans have had life insurance because of the Adelsons. They've donated to so many American causes and Israeli causes, and this has got to stop. This is the biggest portion of this that's got to stop. Just like BLM wasn't about George Floyd, what you're witnessing right now has nothing to do with October 7th. It never did. And you're witnessing that today because the same people that were miserable and hated Israel yesterday still hate Israel today. So it goes to show you one had nothing to do with the other. And there's an old saying in the 12 steps, once you become a pickle, you can't become a cucumber. We have a lot of pickles out there right now who are going to be tripling down on evil. You're going to have Tucker Carlson's, Steve Bannon's, all these people tripling down on evil because they were wrong. They were 100% wrong and they got it wrong. They bet on the wrong person. And you know what? Screw them. But to the people that are listening to them, don't let him Jim Jones you. Okay? Don't drink the damn Kool-Aid of the haters. It's not too late to say, you know what? We were wrong. We listened to the wrong people. We lost our way a little bit. That's
Also,
okay
what they
for
do
people
is
to
they
say.
pose these purity tests as if the purity test itself is truth, and it's not. They say things like even what you're just saying, that you must choose between these things. Why do you have to choose? Why can't you support both? Why can't you be America first and also supportive of another democracy that exists in the world, or recognize that there's another place that actually makes us safer, or another place that's an ally that is fighting for its life against terror. Why is being America first saying I now will turn a blind eye to my friends and allies? Is it saying I will now ignore that if one falls, we might be the next domino, and therefore it might be smart for us to prop up someone out there who may not be America? But America first also means protecting America over the long term. So it's such a strange thing because it's not a loyalty test. It's like moral alignment. Supporting Israel doesn't make you less American. It means you recognize another democracy fighting for its life and saying that's not okay because they stand for the same things we do: freedom, democracy, self-defense, innovation, survival, all of those things. If you're for those things, you're already for both. You don't even know it, but you are. So the idea that you have to kowtow to these purity tests is just ludicrous, and it's basically what makes you think in answering that question. Like, she paused for answering that question, and they're like, oh, here we go, now I get to use it against you. No, the pause is because it's a dumb question, and sometimes asking a dumb question means I don't have an answer for you because the question is too effing dumb.
Nothing is going to placate the woke right because they hate the Jews, they hate Israel, and that overshadows everything. If this was truly about America first, creating peace in that region is in our best interest. We have so much business in that region. We have so much military might in that region. We have so much invested in that region, and we gain so much, especially from the Israelis and their technology. Ending conflicts there is America first. The fact that these guys can't see it exposes their true motivation, and nothing will change that. What Trump is doing, he's actually exposing them. He's tearing off that mask by discarding their insane takes on everything. He's ignoring it. He's marginalizing them, and he's moving forward. And results don't lie. His results are amazing. As they say, blessed are the peacemakers, and Trump is a peacemaker.
But men, to go a little further, they're going to be really, people need to be warned about this, because this is as go on. I mean, I never heard the term before, doom scroll, but men, people are going to be doom scrolling, and they're going to be, and these people are going to be tripling down on this hate. And I just want people to know that going ahead of time, that this is exactly where that woke right movement is headed, because it's the only path they have forward. They have been so boxed in, men. There's no other way out.
Of course. And there's a lot of stuff that they are pushing out. One was the amount of foreign aid that we're giving to all countries, but they only highlight Israel. You're going to see them saying things like, this is not an end to the war. The occupation is still there. Zionism is still terrible. All that stuff, right? So just to reiterate, Zionism is just the Jewish right to self-determination in their ancestral homeland. That is it. If you believe that indigenous people have a right to their homeland, then you're a Zionist. But you're going to see them pushing it as if it's a slur. It's a badge of honor. I am a Zionist, and I love it.
Well, look, I'll say this. This is the thing that I wrote down that my wife said to me. I read your post. You need to enjoy your day. Okay. I'm just going to read you a little bit of it here because it's exactly what you're talking about, men. It's about, while we're happy this happened, of course, that they're home, the war is just about to begin. Everything you thought was the war until now was simply a battle. The war has crossed borders, oceans, and minds. What we've seen until now, the marches, the justifications, the chants, all of it was a test, and the world failed that test spectacularly. So when you see a worse
I wrote the
version,
same thing.
yeah, well, there you go. So,
we were writing the same thing today.
but I think it's because it's the only logical thing to be thinking about. We have now seen a worse version of Hitler and his Nazis being propped up, whether it's by the woke right, whether it's by the left, whether it's by the psychopaths, whether it's by the people like Tucker and Candace who are being paid off, whether it's by whoever, all the people who like the clicks they're getting, like the Megyn Kellys and whoever else it is. Those people were called freedom fighters. They were called victims. Their lies were believed. Their barbarism was romanticized. Their terror was rebranded as resistance, all of it. And when evil becomes fashionable, something to side with or something to cheer on, that's when they get permission to keep going. So they're going to continue. They're going to continue and they're going to turn up the volume. This is about to go nuclear, because now imagine if they go out there and they protest and they're like, hey, Palestine's still not free. And in fact, the genocide just happened and apartheid and all the bullshit that they always are spewing. But now there's no context. We can't say return our hostages. We can't say we want the war to end. We can't say this is about October 7th. We can't say any of the stuff. All that remains is their slogan, Free Palestine, which is the 21st century version of Heil Hitler. And we're watching so many people fall in line behind the barbarism and the evil instead of the good. And so this is about to go big. And if we're not ready for it, and many people are not ready for it, it's going to talk about globalize the Intifada. Right now, you're about to vote a guy in to run the biggest, most important financial center and the biggest home for Jews outside of Israel in the world. And that guy is a literal jihadi who is trying to find a way to quietly kill the Jews. And that's just the beginning of it. So we need to be ready. And that's the thing that I've been thinking about nonstop.
Me
Do you
too.
know
And Mend, I want to ask you this question. Do you think this could propel, if done correctly, a massive ad campaign in New York against Mamdani?
You know, I saw Cuomo put out a campaign ad, just him talking about Mamdani, and he was talking about a picture of Mamdani with his dad and a woman from some African country. I forgot which one it was. She's an elected leader there, and she called, and that country has, but she proposed a law to execute gays, and the law that actually passed was just that they get locked up. It's illegal. So that's who he aligns himself with. His wife put out on the day of the ceasefire, globalize the Intifada and all that other stuff. So
and also expressed very, very sad sorrow for Mr. Fafo as well.
Great.
His
so
wife.
Mamdani, huge lover of him. Huge lover of him.
Yeah, Mamdani is a problem here, and the West is going to be a problem. But the antidote to what you guys are talking about and this tsunami of Jew hate and anti-Israel bias.
But man, it comes down to, and I go to you, you're the one that really anti-Americanism.
It is.
Okay? I really want to impress upon this thought and belief that you have. This has nothing to do. This is anti-Americanism. Being America only. I really want to. You know, when I hear this thought, you know what it says to me? It says to me, stay in your hometowns. Don't visit the rest of the country. Don't get a passport and visit the world. It's only your town that exists. It's like it's like this archaic sort of thinking that I would never wish on everybody. I would say to everybody, explore the world, explore America. You know what? You might find out that you actually hate it and despise it, but at least you know what you're talking about. Don't listen to people anymore when they're talking like this. Experience your own life. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no. So what I was going to say was the antidote to all this stuff. So first of all, America only crowd, let's just call them the woke right. When they attack Israel, it's just a proxy to attack America. They're using Israel as the excuse. That's just another thing that they could use to say this is terrible. But they'll go down
that was the Russians' original plan when they put together the Elders of Zion. It's like, how do we destroy our enemies, blame the Jews, and then somehow link them to the Jews, and then we'll take them down. It's the same thing.
Well, that's how in 1964 they invented Palestinian as an identity, as a people. And that is like one of the easiest things to debunk. I think we should put together a little debunking video of that one, but we'll get to that. The antidote to this tsunami of hate that you're seeing coming, and all of the America woke right people, as well as the woke left, is when Trump forges peace in the Middle East. You're now seeing it. I never thought I'd see this. The guy that Erdogan, whatever his name is, the leader of Turkey, he named his successor, which is the head of their internal security forces, I believe. And he came out yesterday and said that he wants to move to restore relations with Israel and get back on the correct path, which is what America wants for the nations in the Middle East to get along. And this guy came out and made that statement. I mean, under Erdogan, things have gone where Israel would send the army and a whole bunch of special forces guys to Turkey when they had earthquakes. And these guys with their cadaver dogs and all that, they would set up a field hospital in 10 minutes and they'd be treating people immediately. It was amazing, the relationship that they had. And all of that got eroded by Erdogan because he did it as most Arab leaders used to do when they have internal problems. You turn on the Jews, and that directs all the ire of your population to someone else so they don't look at home, which is currently what's actually happening in your country, Golan, in Spain. There's so much corruption
Couldn't
in that
believe they had the
extreme liberal
gall.
government.
I could just see, and I couldn't believe they had the gall. I looked at these countries that were there today, and especially Golan's current adopted country.
They showed up. They showed up for this
I
thing.
can't believe they got an invite, and I can't believe they went. The fact that these people haven't spent a cent on NATO, and the fact that they've become the new Argentina in a sense of Jew hatred. I mean,
Oh yeah. I'll tell you a quick personal story. It's an anecdote, but it's a pretty good one. My daughter, this week in her class, every kid for 1 week brings in news stories. And usually the news stories are like, they have a new dolphin at the aquarium. But since her first day bringing news stories was today, we decided to do the freeing of the hostages. Now, she goes to school in Catalan. Catalan, a language that is mostly useless for a very small group of people. I hope none of them are listening to this, but it's true. You all know it's true. And so the news story was meant to be written in Catalan. And so I said, all right, I'll go find a Catalan news story about the hostage release. I scoured the internet, and there wasn't one news story about not just the hostages, but this conflict writ large in Catalan that had even a shred of truth to it. Not one news story that framed it correctly, that had accurate information. Every time they talked about the flotilla, which they're so proud of, they kept saying, oh, the humanitarian aid it had on it, which of course it had none. They kept talking about the success of the flotilla, which of course was a massive failure. They kept talking about how those people were welcomed back as heroes when they should have been welcomed back as losers. They talked about Israel, and they used every slur you could imagine, from genocide on down. Everything was just absolutely false. And so I ended up taking an article from an English paper and translating it into Catalan. And the teacher said to my daughter, well, no, you need to bring in a Catalan news story. And so I wrote a letter to the teacher letting her know, not even your country, your thing that you wish was a country but isn't, has no idea how to report on this particular thing. So I'm sorry, there isn't going to be a Catalan news story that's coming in. That tells you everything you need to know about the Catalonians and Spain writ large. It's the same thing in Spain too. Every day I look at the paper, and every day it is more false and fact-free than the previous day. And so the fact that they showed up after having spat in the face
It's
of Trump for
incredible.
NATO, and the way they've treated everybody, and sending warships against Israel, and saying, I wish I had a nuclear bomb so I could stop Israel's aggression. And I could go on and on and on. Even as we talked about in a previous show, the Spanish SNL is making fun of Pedro Sanchez,
Right.
because he uses this. It's literally the elders of Zion. Oh, I didn't pay the taxes I was supposed to pay. It's because of Palestine. I couldn't get it up in bed. It's because of Palestine. Everything is because of this. It's just scapegoating as a political policy, and it's ludicrous that they were there. It almost is clown-like. But the whole thing seemed clown-like, to be frank.
Well said. And just as we're closing up, I just want to bring it up. It's very interesting. There are a lot of us that could believe in something, and we get disillusioned, but we still have moral clarity about, at the end of the day, what's wrong or what's right. So when Bush made the horrific mistakes that he did, I blamed Bush, and I blamed the people that were under him for those mistakes. And a lot of us were disillusioned by the lies. And I think that people have used that, especially now, that has been their great lie about foreign policy. That's really been the impetus for so much of it, was Bush's bad foreign policy and these crazy 7-year war plans, or 5 years, 7 wars in 5 years, or whatever the hell their people are talking about.
It was all bullshit.
Right.
But I want to say it's not too late. And I say this to the people out there that, listen, I get that people get caught up. So you're seeing people like Benny Johnson changing his tune a little bit, and you're seeing a few of them shifting, realizing I was on the wrong side. I could shift.
Do you know what
in a sense, what would Charlie do? And you don't think a guy like Charlie Kirk would be the happiest person in the world today? And if it's okay to say, I made a mistake, that's it. We all make them.
Yeah, it's It's important to note when these people talk about the mistakes of the past that the Americans made in the Middle East. Not one of those guys that we attacked was a good guy. We may have gone about it wrong. We put boots on the ground and
Great point.
we tried to nation build and all that other stuff. But Saddam Hussein did invade Kuwait. The guy was out there.
He was the butcher of Baghdad, right?
He was the butcher of Baghdad. His kids had
Just wanted
torture
to
chambers.
clarify.
They had torture chambers. So it's not like we went into some really peace-loving, nice, great country and just tore it to shreds for no reason. There was a lot of good reasons. I just disagreed with the way they went about it. I think we should have dropped bombs on them and never set boots on the ground. We don't care about nation building, which is what Trump's doing now. He goes, I don't care about your internal politics as far as like how democratic you are. I don't care about how you choose to treat your citizens for the most part. If they have a problem with that, let them rise up, let them vote you out or do whatever. I care about peace. And if you're the guy in charge right now, what does it take to get your nation, like Sisi in Egypt? Some people call him a dictator. A lot of people don't like him. A lot of people love him. He's a strong man, and he came to power with a coup when he kicked out the Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood was terrible for Egypt. So all in all, do you get mad at the guys who did a coup and took over, or are you happy that the Muslim Brotherhood is no longer in control there? So Trump goes, I don't care how you got here. I don't care about your internal politics. What is it going to take for you guys to live peacefully with your neighbors? And that's what's happening. So all these guys that are talking all smack about America's past mistakes, they'll never admit that these guys were actually terrible. So they want to talk about the amount of death and carnage caused by the war in Iraq or in Afghanistan. How much death and carnage was there before we came into those places? It wasn't a peaceful place. So it's important to note that even with our errors, we still, for the most part, did the right thing. We could have gone about it way
At
differently.
least we tried to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I can't get out of my head, and I appreciate what you're saying, man. I think you're absolutely right about that. But I can't get out of my head this peace conference now. I just keep thinking about it. Do you guys know what this is? They're calling it the Gaza Peace Summit, right? Are you familiar with the point of what the point of this was? Co-chaired by Trump and Sisi, as you were talking about, man. And this is literally meant to be like their declared goal. Okay, is we're cementing the first phase of the peace, the ceasefire agreement, whatever you want to call it, between Israel and Hamas. And they wouldn't allow Israel to attend. So the whole idea is this deal between Israel and Hamas is being celebrated, and then they're going to set certain goals for governance, for reconstruction, for security, for humanitarian aid. I can't stop thinking about what a joke the whole thing is. It's just a circus. It's just a farce dressed up as diplomacy. And I
And by the way,
I don't think this
good for Trump for getting him invited in and demanding from Sisi that he invite him, and good for Bibi, who everybody loves to hate. And listen, let's talk. I get what you're saying.
This is you know what I'm saying is that this
I'm
doesn't
right on
feel like
board
a
with
good
you.
first step.
Yeah.
So
Was he? Because I was under the impression that Bibi did not want to attend at this time.
No, Bibi was supposed to attend, and then Erdogan basically said, if he's there, he's on his plane. I'm turning my plane around
by the way.
if he attends. Say again?
Really?
It wasn't just Erdogan. It was a few other people.
No, it was a few other people, but he was the one who said, I will turn my plane around and I will not attend. And this whole thing,
he was over the Red Sea.
Correct. And this whole thing is not going to work because without Qatar and Turkey, this whole thing doesn't work. And I'm going to pull out and I'm going to pull other people out if Netanyahu attends. And then Bibi had to not attend. But then what you have since then is basically them saying, all right. So like I said, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Turkey, their axis of hypocrisy getting together and being like, hey, this is the peace festival. This is great. Saudi Arabia, where your dissent gets you beheaded. And Iran, the world's state sponsor of terror. And Turkey, which is just a shit show and his own little personal dictatorship. These three are doing their mob shakedown of if you do anything in the West Bank or in Judea and Samaria, like we're going to wipe you off the map. This is the peace accord. This is the peace conference. So for me, this feels like people performatively clapping quietly while the Arabs just do what the Arabs do. To me, it bothers me that this is the first thing that happened post
But can I tell you something, Golan? We knew that that was going to be the first thing that happened. Trump knew it was going to be the first thing that happened. Why do you think at the Knesset today, why do you think he's been propping up Bibi as much as humanly possible? I mean, I don't think there's a person that could prop Bibi up, which goes against everything Steve Bannon has said, more than Trump right now. He was literally there saying to the people of Israel, this is your man. This is your wartime leader. Celebrate him. Cheer him at the Knesset, okay? As he had those two dingbat lefties who got kicked out. And what was the word Trump said? He goes, oh, that was efficient. And it was perfect as those two leftists are screaming free Palestine. So it's like, I get what you're saying. I'm like, Golan, I'm like in between you and Mend right now. Like I am of like this thing of hopeful, of being extremely hopeful, and of you. I'm like right in the middle. I'm like right between.
I swear to God, I am trying to be hopeful. I am
Listen
trying
to
to take
Mend
my
on this
wife's
one. Can I
advice.
say something? Can I say something to this? I'm going to say this to you. Listen, try to listen to Mend. And here's the deal. And I said this to you the other day. It is now time. We have, I don't know how much time off, not from the show, but from what comes next, to strategize what our next, how we fight this next wave. And I'm not referring to war. That's Israel's least thing that they have to worry about, is how to fight a war. They have to learn how to fight the propaganda. And that's not going to come from within inside the Israeli government. So if you're thinking to yourself right now, that I want to help you get out of your head, think about that. Think about, because that's your brilliance. And that's what you've been doing for 2 years and 4 days. That's what you continue on. You build allegiances. Yeah, sorry, man.
But also keep your eyes on the ball. So Trump managed to pull off this hostage release deal by front loading it before anything else. And what is Trump's motivation here? He's trying to bring priests to the region. That's his goal. It's his stated goal. It's obvious that's what he's doing. So I don't think that team has not thought about what else needs to be done to make that happen. And if it's in an effort to make that happen, that Bibi doesn't show up at this summit, because if you think about it, he actually doesn't need to be there. Everything that they're working out right now is getting the Arabs to take responsibility for Gaza. That's what's going to happen. It's not going to be the Israelis.
What's actually happening is they are banding together to threaten Israel. But okay, I understand that
That's fine.
What we want
That's fine.
is the other thing. Look, but bottom line is, no, I understand what you're saying, of course. And look, I could argue I have so many like pessimistic takes that I'm trying not to go down those roads. The idea that Trump managed to pull this off is a miracle.
Let's both be Mr. Who's our favorite band?
Killers.
And let's try to be Mr.
Brightside. I got you. Thank you.
Okay. Let's and today let's try for the rest of the day to be Mr. Brightside and to think that they have, as men said, these things. Listen, at the end of the day, Golan, can I tell you something? As I watch these nincompoops at this conference, it's not Israel I'm worried about. They're sizing each other up right now. Okay, that's what went on today. Was these Islamic states sizing up each other? This has nothing to do with Israel. Okay, they're like, who's going to go down first? Okay, so it was like the Hunger Games right there today. I mean, it was like, think about it. Like, we like to bring up the Hunger Games. That's what this was. And Starmer and Carney and the guy from Spain and Macron all got kicked off the Hunger Games in episode 1. So that's what you witnessed today in episode 1 of the Hunger Games of the Gaza peace thing. It's who's next that's going to be dropping off. And one thing that region is showing you right now, it likes youth, right? When you look at Saudi Arabia, and when you look at the real progress, it's coming from the youth leadership, the next gen. Erdogan is not next gen. Assisi is far from next gen. So I'm trying to give you hope, a little bit of hope. And what Mendes saying is, let's try to trust. Israel's going to be fine. They're going to be safe. Okay. Worst case scenario, they have to go back to war. Okay?
I don't think they're going back to war.
No, but
I think
saying,
this thing is done.
I'm saying worst case scenario, we know they know how to defend themselves, and everybody is much weaker. And two more things, because I know we'll go a little long, but it's important for people to understand, because you're going to be hearing a lot of this too go on, is that this could have been over a year and a half ago. No, it couldn't have been.
No, it could not have been. Absolutely not, because all of the players that have been taken off the board, all of the players that have been sidelined, all of the players that have been neutered, all of the players that now are making deals they never would have made a year and a half ago. That is an absolute misread. It's a misunderstanding of how this region works, first of all, but it is a misread of every aspect of the situation, and it's an oversimplification. I have seen people who are anti-Bibi trying to make this seem like this great deal that it was just made is nothing at all, because he had the same deal on the table 2 years ago. It's
Never a
like,
deal
yeah,
like that.
but first of all, even if he had on paper, we're going to return the hostages for peace or whatever, then you're still talking about Hezbollah fully armed. You're still talking about Hamas at full capacity. You're still talking about Iran with nuclear weapons. You're still talking about all the players ready to take Israel and America and the West and everybody else down in the exact same way. And today, the calculus has changed. So that deal is not the same, no matter what anybody tells you.
Final thoughts on that, Mint?
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to all of these woke right, woke left people becoming orphans. They all doubled down on hate. They doubled down on just demonizing Israel for defending itself. And now their leaders, the leaders of all these countries, are going to be signing peace deals with Israel. It is so fantastic.
They must be in hell right now. Can you
So
imagine?
pissed.
Can you
So
imagine being
pissed.
inside Tucker's head right now? That's
Right.
like Tucker's head is absolutely exploding. Marjorie Taylor Greene's head is exploding. She keeps on coming out with these crazy posts about Israel. Here's the interesting thing. A lot of people don't see this on Truth because she doesn't post the same things on Truth as she does X. And she's convinced that there's an Israeli cabal coming after her on X with misinformation about all her bad, nefarious stock trade, good, nefarious stock trades. She's made over like whatever amount she's made.
Right.
She's worth $30 million. This
I think
woman
she inherited some money, but she's a
Yeah.
lunatic.
Who's been
I did not know a lot about her when you guys started talking about her. I just thought she was like a MAGA person. I never paid attention. But now that we've been going down this road for a bit, she is a Looney Tune.
See, so if nothing else I've done is try to get you on board that when I talk about certain people that I've actually done my due diligence into them. I just want to end it with this because I think it's extremely important for this narrative. Because Golan, this is nothing new. Okay, so a lot of people don't realize that everybody loves to talk about Israelis' history. So Israel took out Iraq's nuclear reactor in 1981. Do you guys know, and this isn't a trick question, how the reactor was built? How it was done?
Was it the Russians or the French?
Jacques Chirac, the French, for $200 million, built them a reactor. Okay, under the guise that, and they did this under Reagan with Bush being the vice president. They did this under the guise of they needed for energy. And a couple of people in Reagan's cabinet were like, what energy? You guys have more oil than God. You don't need energy, right? So before this all happened, they tried everything in their power, Begin, to take this off the table. They did not want to go down this path. The Mossad was killing as many of the scientists as they possibly could. And when they realized there was a red line, what do you call it? I believe America had built a bunch of fighter jets, I want to say for Iran, but when it fell, they gave the fighter jets to Israel. And Israel, for months, had been planning, I'm not kidding with you guys, flying 100 feet over the ground for months. And they didn't know what the mission was, these pilots. And for months, and they put on double fuel onto these things. So they had no black box jammers. They had nothing. That was just to return. So when they hit the nuclear site and they literally demolished it, Reagan's cabinet was not happy. They were like, Bush Sr., all of them were miserable that Israel did this. And I just want to be, it's amazing how some things never change, but this idea that that this is always Israel first is a great lie. They were not happy that Israel did that. Israel did that without telling anybody. They kept this secret goal on for over a year that was their plan. And have a little faith, my friend.
And a happy Columbus Day.
Look,
I just thought that was such a cool story that not a lot of people know about.
It's an unbelievable story, and if you want to really be real, Israel saved millions of lives that night, and not just Israeli lives, like American lives too. by the way, because if Saddam had nukes in the 80s, every war that followed would have gone nuclear. Everyone.
Yep.
And Israel didn't
Yep.
just protect itself that day. And that's part of the reason why we have these conversations about America first versus America alone. If Israel is protecting the world from a lunatic with God fantasies, and by the way, that also includes Iranian lives and Kuwaiti lives and who knows who else's lives, but America's lives too. And the fact that the reactor was built by France, I think just tells you everything you need to know about France.
That was my point.
I mean,
that was my point. That Jacques Chirac for $200 million sold his soul. And I think it was like 3,700 Peugeots. I'm not kidding either. That he gave Iraq. I'm not kidding whatsoever. Him and Saddam were really tight, and Israel just took out the reactor.
Great. They took out the reactor in Iran. They took out the reactor in Syria, and they took out the reactor in Iraq.
But I think what I love about it is, though, the Reagan cabinet, except for two people, were so miserable, especially Bush Sr.
Yeah.
Because there's this myth that the Bushes, it was Jim Baker, it was the same old people called neocons, hated that they did this. And I just find it sort of fascinating. You know, it's like President Trump realizes what Israel offers, and he spoke about that today at the Knesset meeting. He spoke about the ingenuity, and not just with technology and what they bring. And to what everybody said, you could pivot now. It's okay. You could pivot now. Pivot back to the right. And I don't just mean about loving Israel. I mean about loving America, loving Christians, loving our country, loving the world, believing what America first truly is. Today, America first won, America only lost. And it's not too late. You could come back to sanity at any time you choose. Put the keffiyeh back in your drawer. Put the flag back in your drawer. Trust me, you could probably bring it out in 30 years. It won't get old.
Give the keffiyeh back to the Iraqis. Stop stealing stop cosplaying in other people's garb.
Can I say something? I got to tell you, I think that's one of the best points, and I'm going to snag it for a post. How come nobody ever brought up cultural misappropriation when everybody was wearing the keffiyehs and stuff? You didn't hear the Arabs saying, stop appropriating for us.
Yep.
Thank you for that. Golan, I'm right there with you. But tonight, it's Simchat Torah. No, for you. For you, it's the first night of Sukkot, right?
No, we've already.
And for anybody out there that's listening, it's just celebrate. Celebrate President Trump tonight. He pulled off the impossible. He pulled off the miraculous. And everybody's trying to take credit. I find this to be the most fascinating thing in the world. Everybody, like all of Biden's people going, yeah, we were part of it. No, you weren't.
Yeah.
Okay. You had nothing to do with it. So I want to thank you both. This has been, I hope that people listening to the show understand that we struggle with the same things that everybody else does. We struggle with the same thoughts, and we talk about those thoughts out loud. And everybody that follows any of those people, you're always welcome back. You're always welcome back into the circle of MAGA, because what Trump did today is pure MAGA. It's MAGA gold, Golan. And there we are. I want to thank everybody that's been listening to the show and following the show from the bottom of our hearts. Don't forget to follow us, okay? I'll say that one more time to the shout out. How could you not follow the dude and Golan? Two people who have absolutely the best knowledge and perspective on foreign policy of anybody I've sort of ever met. And I love the last thing that Trump gave Rubio props today. It said best Secretary of State of all time. And I will give a little teaser. I think Trump wants him to be the next president of the United States. I want to wish everybody a good morning, afternoon, and night world, wherever you are. God bless you all.